Hello everyone, and welcome back to the theanimechemtutor. In this video, we are going to do a brief overview on how ions are formed and what is an electrical charge as it relates to the ion. There are two types of ions, cations and anions. Alright, so let us look at how anions are formed. When a neutral molecule or a neutral atom gains an electron, an anion is produced. In such an instance, the number of electrons and protons are no longer equal, since the number of electrons are now greater than the number of protons. This causes the ion to be electrically charged, or specifically, a negatively charged ion is produced. And look at chlorine ion here for an example. On the other hand, when a neutral molecule or a neutral atom loses an electron, a cation is formed and it is given the plus sign or the positive sign, which is written just above the symbol of the element. For example, in the case of aluminum, 3+ ions. In this case, the number of electrons are less than the number of protons. And because of that, the aluminum ion or cations are also electrically charged. Note that when atoms or molecules give up electrons to form cations, at the very same time, there is an atom or a molecule accepting those electrons to form an anion. Now, the elements in between group 1 to 3, those elements tend to form the cations, and the elements in groups 5 to 7 of the periodic table, those elements formed the anions. But what is an electric charge? What is it saying about the ion? By now, we know that in a neutral atom or a neutral molecule, the number of electrons equal to the number of protons. Therefore, it is neutrally charged. When a cation is formed, the number of electrons is less than the number of protons, hence positively charged. When an anion is formed, the number of electrons are greater than the number of protons, therefore negatively charged. So let's use sodium as an example. The sodium atom has 11 electrons and 11 protons. However, the sodium ion, which is Na+, has 10 electrons and 11 protons. In this particular instance of the sodium ion, there is one more proton than electron. That proton can move about freely without being cancelled out by an electron. But why is that so? Remember, electrons and protons are subatomic particles. They are moving about inside of the atom. Each time they move, they generate an electric field. The electric field that is generated by the proton is cancelled out by the electric field generated by the electron, because they have the same amount of particles, the same amount of protons, the same amount of electrons. So a cation that has more protons than electrons, in this case the sodium ion, it has one more proton. That single proton can move about freely, and once it is moving, it generates an electric field. The other 10 electrons are cancelled out by the other 10 protons. So now we see that sodium ion will have a charge of +1. The 1 is not usually written beside the plus sign. If it's greater than 1, then you write the number. In the case of aluminum, which is 3+, or calcium, which is 2+. And the entire process is the same for the anions. Okay, good. So we have established that moving particles generates an electric field. The sodium ion is now electrically charged. Only electrically charged particles can generate an electric field. Additionally, when the sodium ions are placed in an electromagnetic field, a force is produced from their interactions. This is called the Coulombic force, which occurred because the sodium ion is electrically charged. However, this force will not be observed in a neutrally charged molecule or a neutrally charged atom. And as mentioned earlier, the exact same thing would happen for the anions. Now, the very basic principles of the Coulombs law states that one charge has a value of 1.602 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. In the case of the sodium ion with a single charge, it will have a charged value of 1.602 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. Also, the greater the charge on the ion, the greater the Coulombic value. For example, aluminum ion, which is Al3+, would have a charge of 3 times 1.602 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. Or the oxygen ion, which is O2-, would have a charge of 2 times 1.602 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. Similarly, the chlorine anion that has a charge of -1 have a value of 1 times 1.602 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. Now, please do not confuse yourselves with the minus charge that is on the anions. These charges do not undergo any form of subtraction or anything like that. The negative sign simply is just a representation that this atom gained some electrons. That's all it is saying. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.